What is up, boys and girls? Lundic here, and now here we have an audio video for you today. These are a lot rarer on the channel simply because they usually just don't do as well as the slide videos. And to be honest, I just don't think I'm that great at audio videos compared to the slide ones. But this is a big news story that's been broken over the last couple of days. I just want to get my thoughts out there. I want to talk about it for maybe half an hour, something like that. I'm not going to put a timer on this, but it'll be about half an hour. I'm just going to talk about it because I just feel like a lot of people might want to know my thoughts on it, and then gives you guys a chance to have your say in the comment section as well. And that is the breaking news. On Friday, Vince McMahon announced his retirement from all aspects of WWE, including running the company, including probably most important for most of us, including creators as well. So yeah, Vince McMahon is gone from WWE, at least for now, which we'll get into in a second. I mean, the big question is this permanent? And my answer is I'm not too sure. But they broke it about approximately 5 minutes past 4 and in America on Friday, and that was actually that was obviously a strategic move because it was 5 minutes after all the stock market closed, so stock prices could not have crashed over the weekend. And apparently Vince had made this decision about 10 days before Friday, and it's a strange one. I didn't actually think it would come to this. I knew the situation was bad and all that, but I just didn't think Vince would step down. But he has, and here we are, and it's quite weird, isn't it? So first off, before I talk about all this stuff, let me preface everything by saying how much respect I have for Vince McMahon. I mean, let's give the guys credit. What Vince McMahon's done for professional wrestling is unbelievable. I mean, for me, he is the most important man in wrestling history, at least in the last 40 years or so. I mean, if people ask who's the greatest wrestling promoter of all time, Vince. I mean, even if you blindly hate WWE and you hate Vince McMahon personally, to say he's not the greatest promoter of all time, that's just wrong. I know it's opinions and all that, but just plain wrong to suggest anyone else has been a better and more important wrestling promoter than Vince McMahon. I mean, some of the things Vince McMahon's done, even back in the 80s, he took this idea of breaking up this territory system and creating one big national company to take over the world. And he did that. By hook or crook, he did that. And not only did he take it worldwide and national, he took it all around the world. I mean, just look how big WWE is now. It's just crazy. All these countries WWE is big in, and it all started back in the 80s by Vince thinking there was a much bigger world than just the Northeast, his Northeast territory. And he knew what cable television was going to do to the world. And obviously there was some ruthless means in there. I mean, let's face it, some less than great things he did to other promoters and all that. But he took over and pretty much put all the territories out of business. Then he had this amazing idea that he was going to create this mega event of rock and wrestling, and that was called WrestleMania. And look what WrestleMania has become. And then later on, when it looked like the chips were down, he was down and out. WCW had him on the ropes. This big time Warner, Ted Turner company was beating Vince McMahon. But Vince fought back. Start of the Attitude Era, and yes, there was some elements of ECW in that. But Vince McMahon changed everything he believed in, getting away with his family-friendly product. Start of the Attitude Era. And eventually, Vince won the war. Vince McMahon then took this company public. Crazy. Making himself a billionaire in the process. And then he had a near monopoly on the wrestling business for nearly 2 decades. I mean, yeah, there was TNA, which was a kind of a thing for a while. And AEW, is that truly competition for WWE? I guess sort of, but let's face it, AEW is never going to be bigger than WWE. It's just not. And then you got to think about all the stars that Vince has made over the years. from Hulk Hogan to Randy Macho Man Savage to the Ultimate Warrior to the Undertaker to Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels to your Stone Colds, your Rocks, your Triple H's, into the Brock Lesnar's, John Cena's, Batista's, Randy Orton, you know. So Vince McMahon has done a lot. But that being said, I think this was long overdue, wasn't it? I mean, for me, I think then I think a few things happened. First, Vince, with the death of WCW, Vince just got complacent, really, didn't he? Without that competition there to nip at his heels, Vince got complacent and just he took the foot off the pedal. And WWE has slowly declined over the last 21 years consistently. Then I just think stubbornness came into play. Vince just thought, yeah, you know what? This is what I want, and this is how things are going to be, and you fans are going to like it, damn it. Just with the way Vince ran the product and all that, despite many fans not liking it, Vince was like, well, screw you, I'm the king, I can do whatever I want, and that's created a much worse product over the years. And then just Vince himself getting older and out of touch, which makes sense. I mean, you think about when Vince is in his 70s and he's writing a show that's intended for kids and teenagers and all that, how is Vince supposed to be in touch with what the young fans of the last 10 years or so want? He's not. And that just kind of created the kind of shitty product we've had over the years. And I think many fans over the last 20 years of them just gone and never come back. And who knows if they'll ever come back? Probably not. Yeah, and that just kind of led to, let's face it, I would say it's definitely over the last 5 years, but I think you could definitely go back to, I would say this is going back at least more than a decade, but I would say the last 5 years, so like from 2017 till now, has been probably maybe one of the worst periods of wrestling history. I mean, for WWE anyway, I'm just being honest. I mean, I can't think of many great times I've enjoyed the product over the last 5 years. We could even go back the last 10, 11, 12 years if we're being honest about it. I mean, for me, I feel like Vince probably should have even thought about stepping down or just totally walked away around the time of the pipe bomb era, the CM Punk pipe bomb era stuff, so that would have been like 2011. And I just feel like if Vince had stepped back and maybe give credit to somebody else then, and the necessary changes were implemented then, I just feel like we would have had a much, much better product now. I just feel like the show in general just would have been so much better. So Vince has chugged on, and then in around about April time, these allegations came out about sexual misconduct, and it started with one woman that Vince had been having they basically paid her $3 million to keep quiet about an affair that they had. So one thing I want to point out, from everything I've heard over like the last few years, Vince and Linda are still legally married, but they've basically not been together for a long time, like at least 10 years, probably more than that. So at least for the last decade, Vince and Linda have had previous lives. So he's not that he's been cheating on his wife sort of thing, because he's not really been with her, but still, when you're paying hush-hush money, that's obviously going to create problems. And you got to think, like, if Vince has paid these women off, he's guilty of what they're saying, isn't he? Let's be honest. I mean, if you're paying someone that much money, you've got to be guilty. I mean, you got to think, like, if you're going to pay someone off, you obviously don't want to find out. So, and then the big question, so then obviously that led to the board suspending Vince McMahon for his duties and Stephanie becoming the chairwoman temporarily. And I just thought, yeah, he'll fight this, he'll get through this, and he'll come back, and it'll be probably just forgotten about. So this woman, this all happened in 2019. This woman had an affair with Vince, and I think the big one was that originally she came in as a job on $100,000 a year, and then Vince bumped her up to 200 grand a year. So that's kind of, so I think the feeling is that's creating a conflict of interest when Vince is sleeping with these women and giving them a raise, and I think that's kind of what set the alarm bells ringing. And that John Laurinaitis was involved in this as well. It looks like Laurinaitis is totally out the door now. And then a few weeks later, some more allegations came up. So let me just go through them. And this is a big one for me. This one could really come back and bite Vince on the arse. So it turned out, so the Wall Street Journal found out there was 4 women that Vince had paid a total of $12 million over the last 16 years. And this is a big one, so including a $7.5 million deal with a former wrestler who alleged that McMahon had coerced her into giving him oral sex before she was later demoted, ultimately resulting in a contract expiring in 2005. Following resistance of further sexual encounters, Wall Street Journal sources indicated the wrestler and her attorney approached and made the deal with McMahon in 2018. So there you go. So first off, that's an obvious talent in there, and I'm not going to say who it is, but if you think about it, and if you really think about it, you can make an educated guess at working out who it is. So I don't know for a fact, but I believe I know who that woman is, so that's enough. So obviously, judging by this, like once she got over the situation all, and this situation likely fucked her up for years, she came back in 2018 and said, "Hey, right, if you don't pay me off, I'm going to go to the press with these allegations and all that." And then second one, we got roughly $1 million deal for WWE contractor. Now I don't know exactly who that is. Is that someone who works there? Is that just someone they hired for production or something like that? Or it could be anything really. $1 million for WWE contract who was sent unsolicited nude. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but I just I kind of giggle at the idea of Vince McMahon in his 60s, 70s sending people nudes. It's unsolicited nude photos from and allegedly sexually harassed on the job by McMahon. And then in a $1 million agreement in 2006 with a former manager who had worked with McMahon for 10 years before McMahon allegedly initiated a sexual relationship with her. So this is, so for me, and I don't know this fact, but I feel like what's happened is more allegations are on the surface, and more allegations are probably going to come out over the next few days, weeks and months. And I think if they paid these off and they know about this, how many people do they not know about? And how many people are they going to find out about? So if I had to guess what's gone on, and this is just me purely guessing, nothing more, nothing less. I'm not saying I know anything, because I don't. I have no inside knowledge. I know exactly the same about the situation as all of you guys do. I feel like some really bad allegations are going to come out. Something's going to come out that's really going to make Vince's position untenable. And Vince has decided for the best thing to do is to step down, just to keep the company in check, because if some really, really bad allegations come out, like illegal allegations, let's be honest, if stuff like that comes out and Vince is still working there, that's going to lead to advertising and sponsors potentially pulling out. What if members of the board just quit? And then what if like the TV contracts come up and like the big companies like Fox and USA Network don't want to work with WWE anymore and they lose some major contracts, and that's going to have a massive effect on the bottom line. Because let's face it, Vince stepped down for those reasons. Because one thing that has annoyed me a little bit, and it's just niggled me a little bit, and I can see this like in 3 or 4 years time when they do documentaries about this, they're gonna try and spin the narrative of, oh yeah, Vince, 77, he's getting old and tired, he's tired because he's getting old, he wants to retire and all that, and that's just a load of shit. I mean, if none of this had happened and Vince stayed healthy, convinced it, Vince would have been in that spot till the day he died. So Vince has stepped away for self-preservation, really, and that has now led to an interesting situation where Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon are appointed co-CEOs of the company. Is that the perfect solution? Debatable. But I would say in the current circumstances, it's probably the best one. Because let's face it, say what you want about Nick Khan, he knows how to run a business. That is what he does, that is what he's good at. He knows how to run a business. And Stephanie, for all the flack that Stephanie gets, and she definitely deserves a lot of the flack she's got over the last 20 years or so, nobody else in the company really has the experience and knows the ins and outs of WWE like she does. So I think that's going to work. And it's kind of because we thought something was up, because earlier in that day, Triple H or Paul Levesque was announced as the new head of talent relations. So for me, I think the perfect solution, well, not the perfect solution, but the best solution would be if they just let Nick Khan and Stephanie run the company, and hopefully creative goes back to Triple H, and maybe can have someone like Jeff Jarrett helping him, and we'll see where that goes. I mean, and I think there's going to be more big changes coming. I think John Laurinaitis is out of the company now. I don't think they've officially announced that, but I think you can just put two and two together and assume John Laurinaitis isn't coming back for the foreseeable future. You got to think Bucky Beaver, Kevin Dunn, he's going to be, if Vince is leaving his permanent, which we'll talk about in a sec, you got to think he's probably out the door soon, because he was such a close ally for Vince for, God, I think Kevin Dunn's been there since the early 80s, I think. I want to say he joined in company about 83, 84, something like that. So we're going on 40 years. So Kevin Dunn's is probably the closest thing to a second Vince the company had. So you've got to think he's got one foot out the door. He won't be there for much longer. And for me, I just feel like Bruce Pritchard's days are probably numbered as well. Him obviously being a close Vince ally. Although in fairness, Bruce does kiss Triple H's arse just as much as Vince's. But I would think that probably in the next few weeks or maybe the next couple of months, Pritchard will be out of the company as well. And if that happens, I feel like Triple H heading up creative would be the best thing to do. And I think the big question for me is how permanent is permanent. Because this is what people don't understand, right? So, yes, Vince has stepped away from his duties and all that, and he's quote-unquote retired. However, Vince has not given up the company. Vince still owns a majority of the shares in WWE, and this is the big one right here. From what I understand, and someone correct me if I'm talking a load of bollocks here, Vince McMahon still owns about 81% of the voting power, which means Vince had to step away voluntarily. I mean, the board could not have actually voted Vince out because Vince has the power to overrule every single one of them. So is Vince just going to sit back for a few months, a year, 2 years, whatever the case may be, and if things get cleared up, is he just going to come right back? I would say probably. That's what I'm thinking is probably going to happen. So that's what I think will probably happen. Although I suppose it depends how serious the allegations are, and if the criminal allegations or whatever. But we'll see how this plays out, because I just feel like what we know so far is only tip of the iceberg, and we're going to find out a lot more information over the next few days, weeks, months. And what does this mean for WWE? I think the big word for me is hope. I mean, it's more hope versus expectations at the minute, but I just feel like hope that things can finally get better. It's one of those funny things, like for years us fans have said we want Vince out and all that. That's kind of what we've been begging for a long time, and it's kind of like so do you know, like when you were a kid and you really wanted something to happen, or you really wanted a certain present and all that, and then you finally get it and you don't really know how to feel or what to do with it. It's kind of like that for me now. I've wanted Vince out for all this time, and now he's out. I don't really know what to make of it, because it's just so crazy, isn't it? Because it's just so crazy to fathom a WWF, WWE without Vince McMahon. I mean, I'm pretty sure all of us has never known a WWE without Vince McMahon. I mean, he bought the company in 1982, and I think he was working for the company as an announcer since like the mid 70s. So, God, years and years and years. Yeah, I want to say it must have been about 74, something like that. Around that time period that he became an announcer and was working for his dad. So pretty much all of us is being brought up by Vince McMahon's WWE. I mean, I can't imagine there's many people watching this video that were watching wrestling or watching WWF pre-Vince McMahon, so yeah, it's just going to be so strange. But for me, it represents hope. Hope that things are going to get better. I mean, because let's face it, WWE creative has sucked over the last few years, hasn't it? I think we're going back a long way, but like I said, at least 5 years. But probably more like 10, 11, 12. You can even maybe go longer. You could even maybe make a case to post 2001. But yeah, for me, if whoever's going to be in charge of creative can make these changes, hopefully give us wrestling fans a better product. And that's all I want, really. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people think I'm a WWE hater. I'm not. I just want WWE to be the best it can be. And let's face it, Vince has been a huge hindrance, because over the last few years, it's been an audience for one. Vince has been booking stuff that he likes. Whereas most normal companies would cater to the fans and all that. WWE hasn't really done that, and let's face it, it's resulted in a lot of upset people. So you gotta feel like the creative, and this is gonna take time. I feel. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Okay, right now Vince is gone, WWE's automatically going to become better. If the right changes are made starting from after SummerSlam, it's going to take a while to implement them and just change the whole culture of the company and the whole creative process. So I feel like it's going to take time, but if they start doing the right things now, within the next year or two, the product's just going to be so much better. And that's just going to, because I don't want to come in here and be negative about WWE all the time. I mean, I would love to tell you WWE is doing great stuff, but over the last several years, it just hasn't. And that's the thing. So for me, the ideal scenario, I would say we don't need 20 odd writers. I mean, we just don't. And I do feel like they are going to keep writers, because that's just how the company runs. So I would say if it's someone like Triple H, head of creative, maybe someone like Jeff Jarrett in there as well, because Jeff Jarrett's worked for the company, and then one or two writers. So when Triple H, great period in NXT, he had that Ryan Ward helping him. So one or two writers, and then don't overly script promos, but give the talent an outline. Like, give them a few bullet points. We want you to talk about this, this, and this. We want you to make this point. And then just let the talent do it, because I do feel like the one thing I've always hung my hat on is I do feel like the roster's being good enough to have a great product. I mean, and especially in the promos, I feel like some of them are just so held back. I mean, some of them could be so much better on the microphone if they were allowed to just go with it and do their own thing. And I think hopefully that's what we're going to see. So yeah, honestly, it's a really interesting time now, because WWE without a Vince McMahon officially is just fucking crazy, isn't it? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those things, like, you know, I never really expected this day to come, but now it has. And let's just see how things go in the future. And I think that's about it, guys. 24 minutes, that's not too long, is it? So one more thing I just want to say, guys. If people are wondering, am I going to do a SummerSlam audio predictions video later this week? The answer is no. And the reason why is I've barely been watching WWE TV for the last few months. So don't feel like I could really talk about the build-up and storylines going to SummerSlam and really have a good opinion, because I don't really know what I've been talking about. I may possibly do a slide predictions later in the week, but I'm not too sure about that. But the SummerSlam predictions the SummerSlam review will be coming out sometime Sunday. Probably be a bit later on Sunday, because I've got work on Sunday and all that, and I've got to watch it live, then I've got to go to sleep, and then I've got to go to work, so I can't do it too early in the morning, but it will be done. And as far as the channel, I'm just going to keep going with we've got another video coming out today, so just keep your eye on that. And then I'm going to keep doing the match subscriber prediction compilation thing, and that's a wrap, guys. So thanks for listening, and until next time, peace.